on the other side of the screen, drinking coffee and eating pizza with your friends. Some of you have just left your computer where you were surfing the internet, and others have just arrived from a trip abroad. However, there are some people in the world that do not have, and probably will never have, such privileges. And not because they do not have the wish, but actually because the law is against it. There are some countries in the world where human rights do not exist. In Cuba, for example, the internet is limited for all the residents, and it's only granted for some specially selected people to prevent so-called bloggers posting negative comments on the internet. And Cuba is not the only example of totalitarian regime. Cuba, China, Burma, and not even mentioning North Korea, where human rights protocol is violated in almost all the possible ways, are only some examples of the totalitarian regime. Obviously, it is not the right way to go. As our recent history has shown, totalitarian countries experience failure sooner or later. But however, there are some difficulties that may occur when these countries are finally set free from the nuisance of totalitarian regime. For example, what to do with those who have only seen walls of their sheds and endless fields of rice and tobacco all their life. That's why we're here for, to answer all these questions. And please welcome our first guest, John Liberty.
Thank you for the invite, Mr. Willow. My name is John Libertillo, and I'm from the United Nations Human Rights Council. Our duty is to monitor the situation of human rights in the world and report on any violations. I'm specialized in so-called hotspots, where human rights are openly abused. Currently on the top of the list is North Korea, Cuba, China, Venezuela. They are our countries, etc.
Certainly the most oppressive regime takes place in North Korea, and rarely anyone has escaped from there alive. However, we have a unique opportunity to welcome here our guest, John Liberty.
Hello, Mr. Lee. My name is John Libertillo.
Please take a seat. So please, tell us your story, John.
It is an honor to be here. I escaped just a year ago, but the memories of my previous life are still vivid. I was born in concentration camp number 22, near the northern border of North Korea. My parents were critical of the Korean Workers' Party. That's why they were imprisoned. I lived in a small, dirty cell. The conditions there were inhuman. Hatred, death, labor, and famine were the only elements of my childhood. I had to work 14 hours a day under strict surveillance of guards. Once, when I was working near the barracks, the guard turned his back on me. I looked at the fencing and saw freedom on the other side. I knew this could be the chance of my life, so I ran for it. My mate was running in front of me. He grabbed the electric fencing, and the electricity shocked him to death. I climbed over him and ran into the woods, and there I was, free at last. I ran all night and crossed the border to China, where I was handed into an organization called Life Funds for North Korean Refugees. They settled me in the US, where I learned English and am now striving to defend human rights in any other oppressed country.
Wow, simply wow. It is really courageous of you to take the initiative to fight against human rights violations in other countries as well. But how is it? What were the greatest difficulties you encountered in your transition to the free world, if there were any?
You are right, I faced many problems in adjustment to the new world. I had absolutely no experience of how it is. I still don't know how to behave in many situations, and I have no quality, so I can't get a job.
Exactly. It's a well-known problem to people who come from oppressed countries like North Korea. They have no experience in decision making, they have crippled morality, and the readjustment is really hard.
Right, but North Korea is not the only state where such human rights are abused.
Currently, next on the list are Cuba, China, Venezuela, and others. Cuba, for example, is accused of radical censorship of the press and prohibition of immigration. Venezuelan TV stations are controlled by the government to spread its propaganda.
Exactly. A good indicator of an oppressive regime is the censorship of mass media and the internet, because it is to prevent people from knowing that there is a better life elsewhere. In my country, for example, the people think that their life is the best there is, just like we thought the world ended behind the fences of the camp.
I guess otherwise people would have toppled the regime a long time ago.
Probably, but as you can imagine, the true power lies within.
The hands of the army.
Of course, and whether to overthrow or secure the government is in the hands of the generals of the army.
True, but the problem in my country is that the army is fed better and has better conditions than the general public, so there are no intentions of revolt. Needless to say, its leader is also the supreme leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-il.
From what I have heard, it is the third largest army, and it is making nuclear weapons. Seems like a preparation to war, don't you think?
Yes, they are willing to reunite Korea with the South, however, under the government of the North. Many totalitarian countries and authoritarian countries are very aggressive, and they use a lot of resources for the army. For example, Venezuela has been always against Colombia. Many African countries are very aggressive towards their neighbors.
Yes, but isn't it the same for the US? It has the second largest army, and it's waging wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. Whoa, it's a 5-minute warning. We better hurry up.
Well, Mr. Willow, about what you said previously about the US, I wouldn't say so, because the wars are fought for the protection against terrorism, and, well, human rights are not violated in the US, are they? People are not oppressed.
Well, Mr. Willow, what is, in your opinion, the best solution to oppression of human rights in certain countries?
Well, Mr. Willow, sadly, there is no definite solution. These regimes may come down with bloodshed, either by a civil war or the intervention of other countries' armies, like it was with the Nazi Germany. Or maybe, and hopefully, they can come down peacefully, like it was with the USSR.
Well, I don't believe North Korea could follow such a scenario.
You never know. Well, whatever happens, we must be thankful for what we are and where we are, as there are places, as Chan described, in this world, in the 21st century.
We have had escapees from North Korea, but never from... For example, Venezuela has always been against Cuba. Many African countries.